Okay, so hi everyone, thank you for coming along today to the part 2 low mood talk. I'm Haja and I'm a wellbeing practitioner at Centre 33 and I'm here today with my colleague Karina. Do you want to say a quick hello, Karina?
Yep. Hi, so my name's Karina and I'm also a wellbeing practitioner with Centre 33. So I'm just here today to help Haja with some of the technical stuff and to help answer some questions at the end.
Exactly. Perfect. Okay, so let's begin with an overview of what we will be covering today. So today's talk is 45 minutes long, and this is what we'll be covering. So we'll go through some housekeeping rules, and we'll talk about what is low mood, what can keep low mood going, long-term strategies to do with behaviour, and longer-term strategies to do with thoughts. We'll do a bit of signposting to support, and then a quick Q&A at the end. Okay. Okay, so just a couple of things to kind of mention before we get started. It's really important to kind of ensure everyone's confidentiality and anonymity is kind of keep this a safe space for everybody. And to do that, we'll keep your cameras and your microphones turned off, please. And also we ask you to please not to record or screenshot the talk. A recording will be made available on our website and a YouTube channel in the next couple of weeks. So you can kind of always rewatch this if it's helpful. And you may want to kind of have a pen and paper to hand to make any notes. And when we come to the Q&A section at the end, we will turn off the chat function and we also stop the recording. And you can write your questions in the chat and only me and Karina will be kind of able to see them. Because it won't be kind of available until the end. So just be careful when you do write that down and you have any questions that you kind of write them again if we don't get to see them, okay? And lastly, our confidentiality policy is that anything shared with Centre 33 will stay within Centre 33 unless we feel there is a risk to harm to yourself or anyone else. If that was the case, we might kind of need to share information externally with other people that could help. And so if anyone did share anything in the chat that kind of concerns us, we would get in touch with you individually and follow this up. And we will kind of explain if we need to contact anyone else to get support, okay? Perfect. Oh, jumping. Okay, so we'll revisit the cycle of low mood, which was kind of initially explained in part 1. And to help kind of explain this, we'll link to help explain links between thoughts, feelings, and behavior and show cycles that can develop, okay? So in the vicious cycle of low mood, on the left there, you can see that when you feel low, you stop doing things and then you kind of get out of life in general, and this tends to kind of feed into feeling low and low mood. In this cycle, you don't kind of get any positive feedback from anywhere, and therefore the kind of feeling of low can go round and round and just linger. So that's the one on the left. And when we know is kind of when we respond to low mood in a different way, we can kind of help the way we think and the way we feel, and that all kind of becomes a bit different. So that would be the one on the right. Should pop up, yeah. So obviously by doing this, kind of changing the response to kind of how we deal with low mood, and we can do that by creating more positive cycles of activities. So in this cycle, instead of kind of not doing much, someone can complete a valuable activity, a more valued activity that you kind of feel, you feel like you've achieved something at the end, and you feel connected to other people, you feel like you've enjoyed, and you generally kind of see as a valued activity to yourself. You definitely see a change in your behavior and in the cycle in general. And this is what we call the behavior activation. And so where you kind of actively try and introduce activities that kind of kickstart a positive cycle. So BA, also kind of the behavior activation is also known as BA, is the main kind of evidence-based way of working with low mood and depression. Okay. So what has been found is changing the behavior part of thinking, feeling, your motivation and energy levels improve. And your thoughts as your negative thoughts kind of decrease. So therefore, behavior activation helps lift low mood by first looking at things you're either kind of doing or not doing. So just to kind of go over this, and by looking at the diagram, you complete a valued activity, feel a bit better, your overall motivation, energy levels improve, and negative thoughts start to decrease. I'm getting a message that my internet is not stable. Can you hear me well? Is it all good?
Sorry, yeah, I can hear you, Hadjo. It has just gone a bit robotic 1 or 2 times, but it's fine.
All right, hopefully it stays stable for a bit, till the end at least. Okay. So what is behavior activation? So BA is the main evidence-based intervention for working with depression and low mood. So it looks at how you kind of respond to low moods, what is a helpful response and what is an unhelpful response. And it encourages you to try new ways of responding to things, okay? And it focuses on kind of tackling the avoidance and withdrawing from activities. It is an approach which is based on you, your values and your goals. That's very important to focus on. Okay, so when people have low mood, it is really, really tough to start thinking about doing stuff for kind of all the reasons we have mentioned at the beginning. Feeling tired, finding kind of making connection with others tough, feeling sad, not having kind of any interest in things. It is a gradual process and not a quick fix, but it is kind of an effective way for most people. So the first step to behavior activation is identifying how you spend your time. And the best way to do this is by completing an activity diary every day and looking at how you kind of currently do fit in with the following areas, which are achievement, connection, and enjoyment, and whether kind of something is valuable and kind of scoring these out of 10. Okay. And this will kind of give you a current picture of what you are doing and how it impacts your mood. Not all activities obviously affect your mood in the same way. For example, you may not want to kind of complete a piece of homework or sort out your cupboard or see it as an enjoyable thing to do. But afterwards, the sense of achievement is what lifts your mood. And it's important to remember that. So what we would kind of suggest is completing an activity diary over a week and think about how you want to do kind of affects these areas, kind of achievement, the connection, the enjoyment, or whether it is kind of valuable or valued in general. So what you would then do is focus on kind of doing more of the activities that you can see from kind of looking at your diary that do lift your mood and you're kind of scoring quite high. Okay, so with behavior activation, kind of another focus is on tackling avoidance and people's withdrawing kind of from activities as avoidance of things keeps low mood going. So what does avoidance actually look like? So as I can kind of go through the list, have a think of whether any of these ways of avoidance kind of relevant to you. So social is where you kind of avoid being around people. You may be spending time at home in your room and just avoiding peers in general. And behavioral is when you have stopped doing things that you used to do. And distraction, this is where you kind of may find more time than usual on your phone, on social media, binge watching Netflix. And the next is cognitive, and this is when you kind of may avoid thinking about difficult things. And emotional is you might stop your friends and people around you in general. If we think about Camille again, the first example, the cycle we saw earlier, from the example, you could see that some of the time he was using his time mainly kind of avoiding football and activities, and he's kind of socially avoiding anything just by kind of staying at home and being in his room and just distracting himself, using his phone, just gaming more than usual, and all of these things. So avoidance keeps low mood going, like we said, and more kind of recognizing that this is really difficult, as low mood can kind of make you feel disconnected or lacking in confidence and connection with other people. So think about ways that you can reduce avoiding things. One way we can reduce avoidance is and change kind of our response to things is to make sure that any activities are based on your own values. and they become value added. Behavioral activation is an individual kind of approach, and you are more likely to do activities that you value. So have a look at the following list and think about what values kind of jump out for you. Maybe pick 3 and begin to plan for what activity you could do that fit in with this, and make it kind of a goal to try and do that. I will just give you about a minute to look at the different values. You may kind of have your own, which are not on the list. Again, if you would like kind of the values or also the next slide as a handout, just put yes in the chat and we could send that to you.
Just to say that yes would be said at the end when the Q&A is opened. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not really able to see any faces or the chat, so that's Karina's. Yeah. Okay, a few more seconds and then we can move on to the next slide. Okay. Should we move on? Let's move on. Okay, similarly, people are kind of more likely to do activities that are based on their own interests. So again, have a look at the following list and think about what kind of jumps out for you. Maybe pick 3 again for each of each that you kind of decide you would be kind of most motivated by. Excuse me. Once you have identified values and interests, you can kind of use these to identify what you do on a day-to-day basis. And just to point out, research has shown that if our activities are linked to our values and also our interests, they can improve our mood, and we are also more likely to do them. Again, I'll give you maybe another minute to have a look at this list, and same thing again. At the end, put yes in the chat if you would like this as a handout. Okay, we'll move on. Right, so this is the activity diary on the screen. So keeping a diary like this can also help you kind of identify and narrow down the type of activities which are likely to have kind of the most positive impact on your mood. And once you've identified these, just make sure you plan a couple of activities into your routine each week. We could also send this as a handout. Just put yes in the chat later. So now I would like to kind of move on to focus on negative and unhelpful thinking styles. First of all, we're going to talk about something called rumination. So rumination is a type of thinking, and this word is kind of used to describe how cows eat their food and chew it over and over again. So a rumination is a thought that kind of keeps on coming back and someone goes over and over again. This is a very kind of common behavior in low moods. So rumination involves going over things again and again and again in your head, and it often kind of focuses on things that have already happened. And they are kind of the sort of thoughts where you kind of replay situations over and over in your head. And these thoughts can be kind of angry or self-critical. For example, oh, you are so stupid, or you should not have done that. Or they can kind of involve questions like, why did this happen to me? So obviously thinking through things is a very normal way that we use to kind of process events and problems, but rumination can become a problem when our mood is low and thoughts can feel as though kind of stuck in a loop. And we can dwell on bad things that have kind of happened in the past, and go over and over trying to figure out, we are feeling the way why we are feeling the way we are feeling. And the difficulty with rumination is a behavior that keeps low mood going. It's a maintaining thing. So what can we do about rumination? So the first step to deal with rumination is catching and noticing them. So if you are completing an activity diary, write down times that you ruminate. If it kind of maybe as you try and go to sleep, first thing in the morning, extra. And when you notice that you have times that you ruminate, put them in a kind of strategy to deal with them. I've got to find out what kind of works for you best, but here are some strategies that have been used to be helpful and have shown to be helpful. So when you start to think, okay, I'm going to do this, and then give yourself kind of a time or time boundary, for example, 20 minutes, then kind of play something different at the end, e.g. kind of play a movie or music or go out, or depends on time of the day. And if you notice there is kind of a time that you ruminate, plan a valued activity for then, so you do something else instead. So get the thoughts out of your head by writing them down, would be a good thing to do as well, and then put the paper and book down somewhere else. Or kind of try and get out of your heads and focus more on the body, and you could do this kind of by the grounding exercises, which we will cover later. Okay, so while I have been thinking about looking at the behavior from thoughts, feelings and behavior, I also want to mention thoughts mainly. So negative thoughts is associated with low moods, and it is important to recognize this. So obviously, while our brains can often kind of make it seem like they are thoughts and not facts. So if you are kind of finding yourself thinking negative thoughts, try to kind of catch them and challenge them. Are you kind of 100% sure? What would you kind of these thoughts? So what would your friend say, or someone you kind of really trust in their opinion? Like, would that thought really be a fact? It's really, really important to challenge it. So kind of challenge your thoughts, your negative thoughts. They are probably not going to be true. And remember, you may kind of have a negative filter at the moment. And it might kind of be that you have some thinking traps as well. And these are ways of kind of, and they definitely can lead to low moods. So thinking traps are all or nothing. I have fallen out of one of my friends, so everyone must hate me, or should state me good, I'll never get a good career, or kind of catastrophizing when my parents argued, so they will get divorced. Overgeneralizing that young, for example, that young year 9 was mean, so all year 9s are mean. Or mind reading, oh, I can tell they think my new hairstyle is horrid. Or a fortune teller, I just know I have failed that exam. Just kind of negative brain filters and discounting kind of the positives. And so it doesn't kind of at all. It's really important for us to kind of recognize these as traps and notice which ones kind of they fall under, and just try to challenge them as much as possible. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so there are obviously stages to problem solving. So firstly, identify what things you are ruminating about and writing them down. Then write down all kind of the possible solutions, and they can be as unlikely as possible, because obviously by being creative, you may kind of unlock different ways of thinking about your problems. So if it is a difficulty to do kind of with school, or what can you do? Will not go back to school, or do I need to move schools or leave the country, homeschool, drop out a subject or change a subject, or talk to your head of year, ask a friend what would they do. So just look at all your ideas and rate them out of 10 as to how well they kind of will help you solve your problem. And you may want to think about how likely it would be that you carry out that solution. So how easy the solution is, and then pick your solution with the highest score. And the act of kind of getting things down on paper and scoring them, kind of bringing them in, having them in an order of thinking, and then that may kind of be around in your kind of how in the order they're in your head. I'm trying to explain this, it's so difficult. Just writing them down, like what order are these thoughts, and then rating them, see which ones are kind of scored the highest, instead of kind of letting them just ruminate around in your head all the time. to kind of plus like the behavior activation at the beginning that we spoke about, you're kind of doing something towards the solution. And by doing something, anything, you may feel kind of less helpful than doing nothing in a way, and just sitting there kind of allowing yourself to feel low. So it can lift your confidence by trying to find a solution. Okay, so the last part of dealing with rumination is to try and get out of your head and into your body more. And one of the quickest and easiest way of doing this is focusing on using 5 senses, where you focus on the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is just kind of using your senses to kind of break down so I'm just going to have to zoom in a little bit into this, kind of explain it. Oh, has it changed it for you guys as well? Has anything happened to the slide, or is it all okay?
No, the slide's fine, Adja.
Perfect. Okay. So the first grounding technique is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that is thinking of, is that one thing you can taste, 2 things you can smell, 3 things you can hear, 4 things you can feel, and 5 things you can see. Okay. Or in the other way around, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. So this is kind of a well-recognized and grounding technique, and using it can kind of break the rumination cycle. And for those of you who also may kind of be experiencing anxiety, and often low mood anxiety do go hand in hand, this technique can help you when you feel panicky or are kind of getting caught in your worries. So other grounding techniques which may kind of help you are box breathing. So that is the middle one. Just sort of hold your breath, breathe in, hold your breath, breathe out. Okay. And we do have a handout for these as well if you would like them. And progressive muscle relaxation. This one is very easy. Kind of you can Google it or kind of watch videos on YouTube and think kind of tips to try and find I think it's good to kind of find a voice if you're watching it on YouTube that you feel more relaxed to, because you will kind of be using it to relax. So what I would kind of say is practice, 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 and see what effects these grounding techniques have on your mood, and if they help kind of reduce your rumination. Okay, so finally, I want to think about your backup team. So who is around you that can support you with your low mood, particularly if these are feelings the things are kind of feeling really bad at the moment. How can they kind of support you? The different people that can support you in different ways. This can be motivational, practical, companionship, many different types of support. And it may kind of be hard to think sometimes that your parents or adults around you understand you, and I recognize that, and I don't know people's individual circumstances obviously who are watching this webinar, but can you kind of communicate them in a way that they do understand? For example, give them themes and not ideas, so kind of say what you need rather than ask for advice, or I'm feeling like this right now and this is what I need. Or often people around may not kind of know what you need or how to help you, and may kind of appreciate some directions from yourself. So think about which friends or peers, teachers or adults around you that you trust. Again, the negative filter that comes with low mood can kind of make people with low mood feel more lonely, I guess, or because you kind of have been feeling low and have kind of cut yourself from people. So who can you begin to reconnect with, and kind of gain that support back? Okay, so you can, of course, always kind of reach out to us at Centre 33 for support, whether it's a one-off chat about something, or you just kind of need to, or you need kind of ongoing support. We can help with kind of a range of things like mental health, housing, employment, money, sexual health, young carers. So if we can't help, obviously we will signpost you to people who can help you. And you can contact us Monday to Friday, 12 to 5 p.m, or Saturday, 10 to 1 p.m, or you can just leave a message outside of these times, and you can call or text or WhatsApp or email. We have also kind of drop-ins open around the county. So kind of just check out our website for the locations and the latest sort of opening times. And obviously alongside Centre 33, there are other help providers, and some focus more specifically on areas such as kind of the B or Anxiety UK or Kite Trust, and the list goes on. So if you think any of these kind of might be helpful, search for them online and look at their website and kind of find out more about what they can do to, or what they can offer you to help you. Okay, and if you ever need mental health support urgently, or you are in a crisis, it's really important that you reach out to someone for help. In an emergency, obviously 999, and there's obviously other crisis support services included on the slide. So like first response, Childline, Young Minds, many. Okay. So that's kind of the end of the talk, and would now like to open up for any questions. If you don't want to stay for this part, that's fine for you. It's fine for you to kind of leave. And if you do have any questions, please do write them in the chat. But remember that any comments kind of put in the chat will kind of be seen by myself and Karina, and we'll read them out and try and answer them. I think at this point,
I'm going to stop recording now so that we can.
I'll say thank you for listening.
Okay.